Greetings TTRPG fans and enthusiasts, I'm your host and narrator John, and welcome to Legitcast episode 15. It's a TTRPG podcast, and today we are having a chance to sit down with Adrian, creator of the Dungeons and Dyslexia YouTube channel. Hello Adrian, how are you doing?
Hi John, thanks for having me on. Nice to meet you.
Likewise. So let's start with the name of your channel. It drew my attention because I too am a fellow dyslexic and I do like Dungeons and Dragons. I was like, there's two things that I can familiarize and relate to. So talk to me about the name behind the channel.
It was exactly that really. It was, to trying to. I think we all, when we were younger, were like, I wish I'd gone on YouTube years ago. And it was like, I think the hardest thing I've had most of my adult life, well, it was definitely my school life, was being open about being dyslexic. I think we all hide, our families know, and they quite regularly laugh and joke about things that you write. And that's quite comfortable because they're your kids and your family and stuff. And, and your good friends know. And for me, it was that whole, I kind of I was just heading towards 50 and I was like, do you know what? I think we should try and get to more dyslexic people as possible. So I'm just going to go all in, let the whole world, not the whole world, because obviously not the whole world watches me, so to speak, but to actually go on the internet and let everybody know that you can function, and especially in this hobby, which is predominantly reading, that you can still go on and do it. And I was trying to play with, I wanted dyslexia in the title. And the only thing I didn't like about it is because it ended up with D&D, and I was trying to avoid that. But I thought actually, because I nearly went dyslexia in Dungeons, and then I went, actually no, I was talking to the kids, and they were like, Dungeons and Dyslexia, that sounds good, Dad, but please don't go on the internet because our school friends might see you. But that was it. Yeah, it was really designed to be a channel where. I do talk about it on, because I do a weekly update where I just talk to, it's just me and the camera, where the rest of the channel sort of like interviews, reviews and things like that. But I talk about it quite regularly, how I don't think I would have focused or functioned the way I do in life if it hadn't been for role-playing. Because I actually found something I enjoyed reading, which is always the most difficult thing as a dyslexic. Half the battle's trying to get the words on the page through, isn't it? That wasn't proper English, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think I follow. Shout out to, we do have a guest, even though it's very early here, wherever, both in Greece and UK. Velisula is also a dyslexic. And so we're gathering up, we're creating like our own hive of dyslexic people into TTRPGs now.
Yeah, it was hi. Thank you for watching. But yeah, it's actually amazing. I've got 5 kids, and my eldest daughter,
God bless you.
my eldest, his girlfriend is she's a trained psychologist, and she was like, when I got to 250 subscribers, she was like, you're probably done there, because you've gone for an absolute niche of role-playing people and trying to find dyslexic role-playing people as well. And the thing that I've noticed, like yourself, John, is the whole hobby is full of us, and I think we all use the hobby because it's something we enjoy reading, that we can then take the skills from reading into our normal everyday work.
Interesting. That's actually interesting theory. Well, for me, I did like a while ago a comment on your channel about it. Indeed, when I was growing up, I was diagnosed around 15. It was a bit of a, not taboo, but it wasn't something that I would that normally people would go out and shout out and tell everything. But
yeah,
we used to wear like this brand that was DAP, and I used to say that means dyslexic and proud. So I turned this brand around, and I was like dyslexic and proud. And for me, initially writing down things and was like with a pen and paper was very difficult. Was like strangely difficult. Thus, my mother pushed me to figure out what's going on, and we figured out diagnostic. But as of 17 or like 18, I started writing usually TTRPG stuff or something in the computer, and I figured out that while not writing in Greek, which is my native tongue, and writing in English, and using the keyboard instead of pen and paper, helped me quite a lot. And I don't know if that was the case for you, if you figured out that it's different in writing and with no paper or pencil, or writing with a keyboard.
It's definitely made a difference. Because when I was at sort of college and university, it was I don't know how old you are, but I'm assuming I'm older than you. So using computers was it was very early days. So spell checkers were just spell checkers. There was no punctuation checkers or anything like that. So it was literally that, and it was only I was 20 when I was diagnosed. You know, I went all the way through school, all the way through university, got to the last year at university, and one of my lecturers went, "Do you think you're dyslexic?" And I was like, "No, that's for stupid people. You know, I'm not stupid." Because that was
the stigma.
This was back. This was the mid-90s, and it was that sort of stigma back then. And I was like, also like, if I had been, they'd have noticed it at school. My best friend he had a laptop, well, a personal computer at school. He was given extra time in exams. And yeah, so I sat through the test and they diagnosed me. And then suddenly everything sort of fell into place. But modern day, because you've got, like you say, with typing, punctuation and grammar checkers, I think life is easier nowadays because a lot of programs also underline. But that's incredible for me that, you know, that obviously I've only ever done, you know, I did French for a little bit at school, never got on with a foreign language, but for you to actually, you know, find that English is an easier avenue for typing, to me is incredible, because most not
Greek uses, continue, go on.
That's right, no, go on.
Well, Greek uses like a large number of punctuations and different grammar stuff, which makes it even more difficult maybe for dyslexic people to write it down correctly. It has like all sorts of ways that you can write, like many E's, many O's, or whatever, you know. So it's I find my solace writing TTRPG stuff in English. This is what actually drove me into creating content one day. Well, not back then, but one day definitely. So I have like the first like bomb question for you, I would say. How being a dyslexic, if at all, has influenced your journey as a TTRPG gamer and content creator?
Well, it's in fairness, it's the driver to do it. You know, so when I first decided to do this, I was like, right, okay. And I was more focused on dyslexic content than role-playing content. And I really struggled with the channel for a while because I couldn't, because like you, when you go on here, you need to find what naturally you're good at, and then you find your audience, as opposed to your audience would just come to whatever you're doing, if that makes sense. And there's some big people on YouTube that already cover dyslexia. And I then suddenly got this enjoyment for doing reviews, reading books, talking about books. And that's kind of become the style. And I guess the real driver is obviously talking to people. And what's actually happened is people have actually come to me that, like yourselves, and I've got quite a lot of subscribers and members and stuff that are all dyslexic. And we have this like nice little fun community, because I didn't realize how important Discord was in the first sort of 6 to 8 months of having the channel. And there's a lot of activity goes on in Discord. And as you can imagine, my Discord's quite hilarious because it's predominantly filled with dyslexics talking to other dyslexics. So people must be looking in, watching it, going, none of this is English, none of it makes sense. But the great thing about dyslexics is we can all read each other, we know what everyone else is saying, and we don't judge each other by it. So it's quite fun. But it's the thing I found, very early on, I did a video called The 5-Minute Rule. And I don't know if you've ever worked to this on, because one thing dyslexics need to do is read, and read often. Because reading isn't something, we're the only species in the world that reads. No other animal reads. We're not born to read. We have to. Everyone has to be taught to read. So it's actually, and people take it for granted that aren't dyslexic, and it's actually a skill that we develop over time, like speed reading, typing, writing, and everything. And I suddenly realised that I'm now reading more and enjoying reading. But I did this video on the 5-minute rule, and the rule is this, and because a lot of people don't enjoy reading, and you can use it for going to the gym, you can just use it for your lot in life. If you don't want to do something, all you need to do is do it for 5 minutes. Put a timer on your phone, put it down there, put it on for 5 minutes, and get going. Once that timer goes off, you can stop, but you have to do 5 minutes. More often than not, though, once you get to the 5 minutes, the timer goes off. You just turn the timer off and you carry on going because you're enjoying it.
Yeah.
But my plan was to read an hour a day. So I thought all I've got to do is this several times a day. And now I'm quite good at just picking up a book, and I can read a book from start to finish in one sitting. Where a year ago, it would have took me hours or if not weeks to get through a book.
I can see how this 5-minute rule can work with stuff like, because you already change your mindset and you start an activity. So actually stopping that activity, it's less functioning than just continuing on. This kind of, this could work with working out as opposed to like physical activities too. If you don't want to go for a walk to burn calories or whatever, just go for a 5-minute walk around like your house. And if you can go back inside if you feel like it, but chances are you will be already energized and into the mood. You're already wearing your jogging shoes or whatnot. So I can think this can work with both mental and physical activities. That's a very interesting rule. And
can I just stick to it? Yeah, you can use it for housework, anything really. Just if you don't want to do something, all you got to do is commit for 5 minutes, and then once you get there, just stop.
It's like a motivational, this could be like part of your TED talk, the 5-minute rule.
Yeah. One day when I'm rich enough to quit my main job, and just sit on the internet and talk for a living, which I think isn't that everyone's dream now? Just because then you haven't got to leave the house.
That is the goal, I suppose. Maybe not for everyone, but I would like to. This is what we're trying striving towards. So
yeah, I thoroughly enjoy this and talking to people and reading. And I spoke about it on a video a while back, and I kind of do this more for me now than anything else. It's now part of my routine for the day. And you're, dyslexics, because we are quite often on different spectrums for things as well. So we have our own little routines. So recording a video has now become part of my daily routine, which is why people go, how do you do a video a day? It's because it's just, I'll work out, I'll walk the dogs for a couple of hours, I'll do some main work at some stage during the day, I'll do a video, I'll do some editing and chat to people on thing. But it'd be nice to lose my main job, that would be nice, but it's going to take a fair amount of subscribers and stuff to...
Hopefully you will get there. I know that monetization through YouTube has become quite more difficult than it used to be, or maybe it's like the competition. But you have an aspiring and growing channel with over 1,000 subscribers, I believe, right?
2,666 now. So
wow.
It's the last couple of months it's gone really, really big. I'm not saying nearly 3,000 is big numbers or whatever, but for me it just seems to be growing quite fast now, which is really, really nice.
So apologies for trimming down 1,000 of your followers.
It's all right. It's all right.
I must have confused it with another channel. Melisula from the chat says, as a dyslexic with extra issue of ADHD, my attention span is way lower than the concentration walks and concentration walks away while I'm stressed. Role playing with my imagination is like a natural to me. So I think there is definitely a pattern here between TTRPGs and dyslexia. So you do have indeed found out a niche. Shout out to many common acquaintances that we have. We were playing with RX Oliver, Chris Kidd, and DM Martin, and we figured out that we're all of us dyslexic. Like it was just mentioned once, like, hey, I'm too. Like, so definitely there's a community of that combines those two things.
It is. I do think it's there are certain hobbies. It's like when we get into music. There's a lot of role players like rock music. I don't know why. We just all seem to. It's I don't know why. We've all migrated to this we're all dyslexic. We all listen to Metallica. A lot of us will work out, and there's quite a large number of us do martial arts as well. It's really weird that we're all that just same person. So when we get into a room and just throw dice together, you've got lots in common. I don't know whether it's the role playing that creates the hobbies, like the other,
or the other way around,
or
yeah.
Or the other way around. But yeah, it's very strange.
It's like kindred spirits, you know. We already have things in common, and we kind of know each other without even ever met. Before we get to the complete science fiction part of this, let's talk a little bit about the dungeons part. Now that we covered a little bit about the dyslexic part. So recently, I personally started playing and discovered Shadowdark, and I know that you're a huge fan of Shadowdark. So let's start by throwing another bomb question. Shadowdark compared to Dungeons & Dragons 5e, what do you think is the thing that draws people towards Shadowdark rather than anything else?
Well, there's been a few things, and I'm going to choose my words carefully because it's, 5e has got a huge fan base, and I don't want to annoy anyone, And I'm going to say it. I like 5e. I've played 5e for a long time, but I tend to look at a game from a games master's point of view as opposed to a player. And I like playing 5e. I like running 5e. I did the Dungeons and Drakenheim, the whole campaign for the Dungeon Dudes. It was a year and a half of our life playing it. My players, we had a wonderful time. But the problem with 5e is as you go up levels, players become very superhero. It's very hard to kill them. Not that you want to kill them, but there needs to be a threat in a combat. Shadowdark came out, and I don't know if you were the same. I did not want to like Shadowdark. I was like, this is the latest fad. I don't understand why anyone likes it. And then I played it once and I went, oh, okay, I get this. This is basically all the fun of 5e, but the deadliness of stuff that I used to play with this wonderful light mechanic, but it's so much more accessible. Have you ever played Pathfinder?
No, I haven't played any Pathfinder.
Okay, so we went to Pathfinder for a while, and I was like, I need to just come back to basics and just get into simpler games. And that, I think, is where Shadowdark has really taken off. I don't think it's going to replace 5e. 5e's going nowhere. Dungeons & Dragons is definitely going nowhere. But I do think... I was talking to one of my friends, and he calls it the latest darling of the role-playing community. And it definitely is. It superseded Mort Borg, which became... I think that was about 2 years ago. That was the favourite. But I really enjoy running and playing it. Because of it's the low hit points as well, I think, for me. But what about you? What brought you into it?
Let's start with this aesthetics that surround Shadowdark. Whatever type of session that you play, it gets you really back to the black and white OSR type of role playing, which I started out with AD&D, the second edition. But even that version didn't have this cool black and white artwork. It was like the older, zine supplements, modules they were called back then, that did actually have this artwork, art style. And this is the first thing that actually drew my attention. Now actually started to playing, I like how, the deadliness of the system. I suppose there is nothing wrong with playing superheroes. I kind of created a game around superheroes. I'm all about that. But sometimes you need to play, the fantasy heroes who just have like the torch and the sword and the shield, and they are not like crazy feats that can protect you from everything and give you extra actions and all this jazz. So I like the being grounded to the approach. Recently, shout out to the Lair community. It's like a huge Greek community of players that they're so into Shadowdark, and we started playing Dark Sun Shadowdark. So it's like as hardcore as you can get. Recently I was playing a 3-green. I lost a leg. I lost a +1 to my dexterity, and now it's from 18-17. I lost modifier. It's like even if you don't die, you really feel that it's like a world with repercussions and high lethality. So Yeah, definitely. Shadowdark. It's a new thing, and it's taking over. I think it's very popular in the TTRPG
Definitely, because
circles.
the best thing, I think, well, one of the best things about 5th edition was advantage and disadvantage. It's
Mhm.
the first time I remember that mechanic being in a game. I don't know whether it was for sure,
Yeah.
but because Shadowdark uses that mechanic as well, I think that's one of the other beauties of it that's made it so accessible. I'm just looking at the comment from Meth Moiler, I think is it.
It's
He mentioned
pronounced
two of me.
Mellich. It's a difficult name to pronounce for
I
sure.
can't quite read it.
It's
But
Greek. It's Greek. Don't worry.
yeah. Pathfinder 3.5, which was basically D&D 3.5, I think it's what he's on about, was always my favourite D&D.
I know.
But then,
Likewise. Back then, yeah.
yeah, because that's the one I grew up in. I did AD&D and Dark Sun for about 3 or 4 months. We then discovered Vampire the Masquerade and Werewolf the Apocalypse. We went down that route, which a lot of people don't like, because again, Vampire split the role-playing community in the 90s, because again, that was the big thing, and because obviously D&D collapsed when TSR went under, and then obviously Wizards of the Coast bought them. Third edition and 3.5 came out, which we equally loved, and then they made the dramatic move to 4th edition.
Yeah.
And then
I think,
Pezos bought 3.5.
again, I see a lot of similarities into our journey because my journey was quite similar too. We stayed for a long while in D&D 3.5 and checking out prestige classes from various books and stuff. But then, yeah, we discovered the Vampire the Masquerade, and this is where personally things changed how I viewed role playing in general and enjoying the hobby. But yeah,
Yeah.
as for Shadowdark, it kinda is the best of both worlds, combining good mechanics of 5e, but also removing all the extra clutter and turning it back something more
So, and
grounded.
one thing I really discovered the other day, because a lot of people now send me modules, and I'm always apologetic that I can't review every module. I don't always, because if I don't like something, I won't put it on my channel. I don't want to just be that person that goes, oh, I was sent this, it's a bit rubbish, nobody buy it. I'm always like, if you're only going to say negative things, don't put the camera on. I've had people offer me money to do reviews, and I'm like, no, I don't want. Don't get me wrong, I do want the money, but I think if you're going to be paid for a review, the integrity's gone. I want to review something because I like it and I want to tell people about it. And the thing is, with my reading speed and skills, if I don't like it, I struggle to read it. So then I wouldn't get a review on. But I was sent a module, and it was for 6th player, 4 players at 6th level for Shadowdark. It took about 2 minutes extra to do the character from 1st to 6th. Imagine doing that in 5th edition, going, right, we're going to do a one shot. Everyone come to my table. Right, we can do a one shot this week. Yeah, everyone's going to do a 6th level character. I want to start in 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's not really.
No, they're going to be on Reddit for the first hour trying to work out the best combination.
We're gonna get back to your reviews in a little bit later. Let's talk about a few more games before we get into reviews and interviews.
Yeah.
You're also a big fan of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, and
best game of all time.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's my
number one game.
Okay.
Yeah.
For me, when I started playing, it was first the fantasy, but then I started Rogue Trader, the 40k stuff a lot. But it was the D100 system that actually influenced my game and my game design quite a lot. It was the character creation system, the lethality, when you're having like a battle with Warhammer Fantasy 3v1, for example, let's say you're the one and you're against 3, it really feels that's very difficult to accomplish, whereas when another game, I will stun this one and I will have like whatever like flanking, for example, in 3.2 was like +2. Okay, they're flanking me, they have +2, no big deal, I can kick their asses. But now, like, if someone hits you and you don't wearing an armor, you might lose a hand pretty easily, So what was it with Warhammer Fantasy that made you think it's the best TTRPG of all time?
Well, I've been playing it since first edition. So the world is by far probably the most interesting and deadliest and scariest worlds all at the same time. You know, if you're a fan of sort of 15th, 16th century Eastern European, that sort of side, you know, the early days of firearms and stuff like that, gunpowder coming in. But it's also it's one of the worlds that seems very lived in and real. Because the problem with sort of D&D and high fantasy is it always feels nice. Yes, there's dragons and things, but Warhammer always feels like your players are dirty, you're unwashed, you're always walking in mud. You know, it's a harder world, if that makes sense. And because it's very much Europe, it just sort of resonates with that time period. I'm a huge fan of Howard's Solomon Kane books. So Warhammer also is very much in that Puritan age as well, of the sort of Solomon Kane. You can play that sort of character. But any system where one of the things that people don't like is combat, because so like Vampire the Masquerade and stuff, you roll to hit, they roll to defend. And then obviously you sort of compare. But one thing this does brilliantly is with 4th edition, you've got the success levels. So if you roll to hit and you miss, and let's say you fail by 1 success level, they then roll to avoid your attack, and then they fail by 2 success levels, you still hit them because they've dodged worse than you've hit, and they've actually dodged into your weapon. And that is some of the coolest game mechanics that you can find. But then say you combine that with the monsters, the realism, and because it's deadly, like you say, 3-on-1's deadly, 1-on-1's deadly. Having those incredibly interesting random critical tables where you can just instantly lose a load of hit points and your arm, and then you're stuck with a character with no right arm for the rest, and you have to then learn to fight the weapon with the opposite. You know, it's got all the rules for germs, diseases. It's not a light game, and I think this is why I'm glad the old world's coming out that I recently covered, because it seems a lot more. Because the biggest problem with Warhammer, and I don't know if you're the same, is it's a very heavy system. As in, there's a lot of rules. Well, there's not a lot of rules, but there's a lot going on. So we only now play it over a VTT. We don't play it face to face. I don't think I could play 4th edition face to face because I need the computer to do all the mechanics and calculations for me. But the world is absolutely amazing, and I wish I got into the minis, like Games Workshop stuff. I can't paint. I haven't got the patience to paint. I haven't got the patience to put figures together. It's a shame. Or a friend that even plays with it, because I played a lot of Blood Bowl growing up, but you bought the figures combined. They were set then, because they're all lead, weren't they, back in the day?
Shout out to Jeff joining us on chat, saying that you are awesome. Indeed, you are. So how come it's not Warhammer 40k for you, like Rogue Trader or like any other supplement or book of this series? Is it like the classical, I prefer fantasy over sci-fi?
It's because all my friends are gits. They don't like 40k. So my gaming group. So I've got like here you can see all of the Wrath and Glory.
Right.
Books.
I played Wrath and Glory recently. Yeah.
Yeah. I've got Maledictum thingy here as well. The other one, which is it's Warhammer Fantasy in the 40k world. And not all of my groups like sci-fi, and most of them don't. They're not overly keen on Space Marines and 40k. So they'll all play fantasy. So that is why Warhammer more than it. But yeah, I had all the Rogue Traders, Death Squad. What's the other one? There was Rogue Traders,
Space Marines.
Yeah. Death Troopers. No, Death.
Something like it. Yeah.
Yeah. I had them. They're worth a lot of money now as well. These books, because they're so out of print. I bought them all.
Oh, cool.
And then I ended up selling them because I couldn't get them played.
So you mentioned earlier, that you're playing online, like in a VTT Warhammer, right?
Yeah.
Which VTT is that?
I use Foundry for Warhammer, and I use Roll20 for everything else.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about Foundry's Warhammer because I'm curious. We've checked it when we were designing our system, but we haven't really played it. So it does it take care of a lot of the crunchiness and the complexity of some of the rules that you mentioned and turns it into automations and making your life easier?
Yeah. So I'm gonna have to admit this now. So I ended up buying the whole of the enemy within campaign direct from Cubicle 7. So it's uploaded everything in there, all the maps, all the stats. So I'm just running it. If I had to, everyone that I know seems to think Foundry is better than Roll20. But Foundry confuses me. So I probably can't answer your question very well because I bought it, it just does everything for me. You know, you click on the monster, you click your attack, and then it just works out the damage based off and takes the health off. And so it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant for Warhammer because it just takes it all off. If I had to design my own adventures and campaigns for Warhammer, I'd be doing it on Roll20 just because I think I'm several thousand hours into using Roll20. I've been using it for years. I can knock an adventure and a campaign together very, very quickly. But Foundry looks good. It does look good.
All right,
that hasn't answered your question at all, has it?
Yeah, no, it does. It does absolutely. If let's move on to a little bit about your channel. Again, you cover reviews and interviews. Let's start with the reviews. What sort of precious little gems that people might not know have you reviewed that you want to mention?
Oh, there's quite a lot. Because I don't do a lot of mainstream books on there, and I think that maybe is the charm of the channel. I don't know that I do pick up an awful lot of sort of little Shadowdark adventures and settings. There was one actually that isn't Shadowdark. It's for Pirate Borg that Zach Goins. I bought it actually. Because no, it didn't. I was having an interview with Zach Goins, who's an incredibly talented creator, and he sent me this one. It's called Repentant, and it's a little one shot for Pirate Borg, and it's by far, I think, probably one of the coolest adventures I've ever read. Because I'm going to try not to. No, I'm going to have to spoil it, unfortunately, because
spoiler alert.
It's so good.
Spoiler alert, but
yeah.
Go ahead.
So spoiler alert. The review's on my channel. But basically, the players discover a pirate ship, and this pirate ship is going in onto dry land, not the ship itself, the people, and they're all undead, and they are capturing people from towns or off of the ships, and putting them on the ships and driving off. And have you ever played Pirate Borg?
No, I haven't played any of the Borg series, although I do know them. I've checked the manuals and the inside design and stuff, but I've never played any of the Borgs.
Okay, so machine guns, that was really good. Machine gods that's just popped up there.
Okay.
But I'll come back to that one. I'll come back to that in a second. But in this adventure, so the players will finally, at some stage, discover the ship. And in Pirate Borg, there is this mechanic called, I think it's called dust, which is this powder from undead people, which is effectively an incredibly expensive drug that can either enhance the players or kill the players. And what they find on board of this ship is the undead people are actually going out, capturing souls, turning them into undead, putting them into this grinder to turn them into this dust. So it's this big machine that will make the players unlimited money. So at the end of the little one shot, they've got this problem. Do they sink the ship, give up, all end of wealth forever, or do they go, do you know what, we'll take this ship, we'll go and capture some souls, turn them into undead, and then we can afford to go and buy the whole of the Caribbean. It's such a great little one-shot to throw at players that could be quite easily corrupted. It's such a good idea. You know, when you read such little adventures and you go, do you know what, I absolutely love that. That's just brilliant.
So that was called Repentance, you said?
The Repentant, yeah.
The Repentant, okay.
Yeah. I think it's only about 10-15 pages. So yeah, and because it's a Pirate Borg one, beautiful art as well.
Yeah. Well, all the Borg series has a very unique art and design, rather, not the artworks, it's the design style. It's like they kind of break the norm. You're like uh, popping out of the pages. You know what I'm saying? It's like so
Yeah.
different style than anything else that I've ever read. Generally, Free League does a very good job with creating like unique identities for their books, the visual art. So they definitely did something. It's like Free League, right? The original.
Morborg. Well, it's Stockholm something, which was then reprinted. But they've changed the role playing world considerably, haven't they? Free League. The quality of their books, the actual feel on physical books is forced a lot of companies to really step up.
Yeah, I think for me they're the number one, not in numbers because obviously like the big Dungeons and Dragons label is and most likely be number one for the foreseeable future. But as of terms of quality, overall Free League is by far the best for me. What they do, and let's talk about the interviews that you also do on your channel. Are there any shout out to people that you would like to share?
Yeah, I'm glad. This is the one that I'm glad you warned me of because I had some really good. The biggest one, I would say, the biggest one that I got was he surprised me because I've had quite a lot of creators, and one of my big inspirations for doing this channel was Jeff McAleer from the Gaming Gang, because and I said to him at the time, I was like, because his channel is very much like mine. He's got a wall of books behind him, and he's just talking to a camera and stuff. And I was like, if Jeff can do that, I can do that. And it was just, and we got talking, and he saw that I'd said this on one of my videos, and then he started following me, and I was like, do you want to come on for an interview? And he went, yeah. And it was really, really nice actually talking to someone that you've been watching for probably 5-10 years, I don't know just how long. And Zach, who's just popped up there. I've been watching him on a channel that he's not on. He's taught me to play loads of games, and actually getting to have him on as well was brilliant. And he's the one that wrote The Repentant.
Wow!
So that was good timing that he's popped up. But yeah, again, everyone that I've had on has been absolutely fun to talk to, because my first 2 interviews I was utterly terrified, because I was like, what am I going to say? What have you got to do? And you must have been like this when you first started doing yours. You go, what happens if it goes wrong? What happens if I just have to end it after 15 minutes because we've just got this big blank? But you do, what I do is when I'm talking to someone, I shut up. You let them finish. And that's the trick to talking to people. And I watch other people, and they just keep talking over them, and they're like, no, I want to listen to this person, which is why I'm watching it. So just be quiet for a second, ask them the question, and allow them to speak. But there's Jeff. He's popping up there.
Oh, it's the same Jeff. Oh, the Jeff over there. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, it's been really, really good. I've got a couple of lives coming up. One next week, and then I've got a really big one the week after. Who with Chubby Funster, who's been one of the biggest sort of third-party creators on Shadowdark stuff. And he contacted me and he went, I've got we've been play testing his book, and with my like real life Sunday group, so he's been DMing that for a few weeks. So I've got my first ever play testing credit that is going to go into a book. But he's coming on my channel to launch his Kickstarter live on my channel.
How does that really work? Like, you're gonna be live streaming, and then he will press
and he'll press
go live on Kickstarter. Oh wow!
Yeah. So that I'm really looking forward to that. And then we've got Bill Havett that's done. He's doing one this Tuesday coming up, and I was going, your Kickstarter's going live at the same time. Do you want to do that? Because that's what Chubby's doing. And he went, well, if Chubby's doing it, then I'm going to have to do that. But yeah, he's launching Righteous Vow 3. And 1 and 2 absolutely knocked them out of the park. These were... I think reading his first Righteous Vow is probably one of the best first level opening adventures I've ever seen and read. It's absolutely brilliant. I'll just quickly talk. It's basically a mini hex crawl. And the players are given a map, and there's some castles, and some of the family died over the years, so they got to go and collect some items to go and do something. But all the castles are random, and the games master rolls, and they're looking for one castle, and they don't know which is the right one out of all the castles. So there's lots of sort of exploring and going around that they're going to have to do. And even as the game master, you might not necessarily know where the right castle is initially when you go. So you're involved and excited for the players as well. So yeah, it's
like a small sandbox with like with a map and playing like I find it interesting. I find it interesting generally, like some stories that are not resolving around a character group, but rather like castles, and maybe like combat would be armies instead of single character. You control an army, and I always find strongholds, all these concepts quite fascinating.
That goes back, and that's a bit what Shadowdark does, and it takes you back, because if you think back to the early editions of AD&D and D&D, once you got up to a certain level, you would then have your followers, and then you would also save up to build up for a stronghold or an inn or a castle or whatever.
Yeah.
And in the last sort of 20-30, we've kind of lost that. We don't get that. We always just play a player. And you might have some settled land or something. But in the older things, and because we're now getting this old school revival, younger players are now starting to see the wonders of building a home and having a homestead, and the fact you've then got to finance it, and you've got to pay for the staff, and you've then got the reason to carry on going out adventuring because you've got all these people to pay for. So which was it for
takes the game to the next level. Yeah.
I think you touched on Free Leagues. The Forbidden Lands box set is phenomenal, with those two sort of faux leather. There's the Players Masters and the Games Masters book in there, which is really good. But yeah, I think like you, I like talking to people. I like learning and finding out, their trajectories, how they got into the hobby, what games we've got in hobby, in common, things like that. And you're just hanging out, what it feels like with friends, even though you've never met or spoke to someone, because you've got so much in common. It's just easy to talk.
The Kindred Spirits theory that we discussed earlier, somehow it works. And you mentioned earlier that you had like during your first interviews this fear. What if it go blank? We have nothing to talk about. And although I do keep my notes always, because mind fogs or whatnot, I never actually in 15 episodes had any problem with having the conversation rolling, because we do share this amazing hobby as a passion, everyone who is in this industry. And it is, I always used to say that TTRPGs is the ultimate form of entertainment. It's better than books, it's better than movies, it's better than whatever. Video games, there are no unclickable doors or areas that haven't been rendered. They're interactive in a way that a book could never be. And you choose your own story in a way that no movie could ever really do. And it's also a social activity. I guess you can play with one player or something, or play even solo TTRPGs, which is like a new thing these days. But generally the thing is that even if you're around the table in real life, physical playing, or playing virtually with webcams and VTTs, you're still an amazing social interaction that you get to share with other people. So it's for me, it has always been and always will be the best form of entertainment. And that's why we have things to talk about, because we share the best hobby that there is.
Yeah. How do you, as a dyslexic, how do you get on with solo? Have you ever sort of experienced sort of solo games, or get distracted too easily?
I've never played, not even read so much solo content, to be honest. I was thinking of creating some solo stuff for my game, but then again I said, not right now, because I don't really have experience of playing solo, reading solo supplements or whatnot. But I've had my eye on them for quite a while, because they're really popular these days. You can have crowdfunding that's just a solo TTRPG and can really go well. And especially things like ZineQuest, having a solo mode where all the top zines that came out this past couple of years had a solo mode, if not being solo entirely. And Well, there are different ways of solo playing. You can have like the journaling solo TTRPGs, and or like choose your own adventure. I've played when I was a youngster, like these books, these fantasy books that were like with a few pictures on, but basically like, did you want to go to the swamp? Go to the page 15, or if you like to stay to the forest, go to page 36. And I enjoy this type of solo gaming more so than the journaling part, although there's completely different things to enjoy from. And I've seen like some games that actually, or like most these days maybe, that you can also add gold pieces, you can also add like equipment, you can actually kind of have like the solo TTRPG experience. But what's your experience with solo TTRPGs?
I'm like you. I started with, I think, Final Fantasy, fighting fantasy books like Warlock of Firetop Mountain and Forest of Doom, and then they did like a ninja range. But did you used to read them? You used to hold multiple pages open as you were going through, just in case you instantly died and you needed to go back. I think that's something that's translated every country and every kid's bedroom. I've managed to solo a few things with Shadowdark. That's not too bad because it's rules light. One of my go-tos is 2D6 Dungeon, which is a game by Toby Lancaster, by DR Games, which is, you are just one player going down a dungeon and all you use is 2D6, and it just fleshes out the stories. But I interviewed him very early on, and he's a massive Warhammer Fantasy fan. So he's like me, loves random tables. So it's a book full of random tables that just creates a dungeon. And because of that, there's not a lot of heavy lifting from a reading point of view. Because one thing I struggle when I'm doing a solo game, and there's Repentant, there's the cover there. It's just on now, just on screen.
That's a cool cover. Sorry, a very, very cool cover.
Yeah, so if I get distracted watching all my things come up.
Memories start flooding in.
Yeah. If it's a heavy game, then I get very distracted because I'm doing too much reading and not enough playing. But the one thing I do because of, whether it's an OCD or whatever it is I have to be really careful because I then get hooked on that. So my latest addiction, as my wife calls it, or isms as she calls it, is YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So over the years, I've collected role-playing books. Before COVID, I had over 350 board games. Didn't play a single board game during lockdown. My family wasn't. I came out of lockdown, they were all gone within a month. I sold the lot. And I then put all that money into a whiskey collection. And then I went, I'll collect watches. And I do this. I just flit around. And all I do is I move my money from one hobby to another. But this has been my constant. Role-playing has always been a constant in my life since I started when I think I was 16 and a half when I came into the hobby quite late.
Okay, not quite late.
Yeah, well, it's later than people. Whenever I interview people, they're always, I started when I was 3.
Okay, I guess.
Always, okay. Yeah, and they always talk about the white box or the red box, because all Americans seem to have started with Dungeons and Dragons. But I am quite conscious that I don't play any computer games anymore because all of my free time and conscience is just about role playing, reading stuff to then come out and talk on the channel or setting out interviews and stuff. Because if you're new to me on here, I do daily content, which people think's crazy that I do a video a day. And I think in the last 4 months, there's only one day I haven't done a daily video. Some days I do 2. And I kind of, it's just because it's what I enjoy doing. I do this partly for my own sanity as well. Just sitting here, just me in my office talking to my camera. I enjoy it. I say it keeps me normal, but probably I'm not as normal as I'd like to pretend.
What is normal? Normal is a relative term, I would say. So to wrap things up, it has been a great talk, by the way. I love how it
thank you, John.
Really fluid. And shout out to all the people with comments. We didn't expect to have any this early. what we do have is Adrian reading improving the more he reads all these TTRPGs? That's a good question.
Yes, Jeff. Yeah,
Yes.
my reading is a lot faster, and I'm very conscious that, as I was saying, I don't think you're on when I was talking about obviously reading being a skill. That if I take a day or two off, I do find that my speed just drops down quite quickly. It was interesting. I know you want to wrap, but we just did
That's okay.
we did a review of X-Crawl Classic. So every 2 weeks I do a live review with a couple of people from my Discord, and we review a book, and during that review we give away a copy of the book for anyone that's on and comments. And they have to not everyone that's on gets a copy of the book. I mean, we give away one copy to someone. That's just clarified before I break the bank. And we did X-Crawl Classics, which is a Goodman Games remake of, I think it was originally under D&D. I think it was 3.5, the first edition of it. And it was really hard. It was the hardest thing I've read for a long time, because it was 300 pages of text there's great art in the book, but there isn't a lot, but most of the book's text, and then they'll have, a couple of pages of art, and it's 2 columns to each page as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's harder to read on a PDF, because normally, I don't know about you, I'll read a lot off my iPad because I can zoom in.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's down columns, you're going down the one, then you've got to come down the other one to then go. And it took me almost 2 weeks to read it. And I'm glad I did it, because the game seems really good. But if it was down to just me, that book would have got parked, and I never would have read it. Because the other thing to answer Jeff's question is, I tend to read stuff that I enjoy, and if I'm not enjoying it, I don't read it now, which again keeps the speed going.
Do you think like the 2 columns work to the game's disadvantage? Would you recommend having 1 column per page?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the other driving goals I've got, which we just to sort of finish for you, is obviously I wanted to bring the attention of dyslexia to more people, but I've had designers do this already, is send me copies of books to read it from a dyslexic's point of view to see if it's good enough or safe enough to release. Because most people, bear in mind, we are between 10 to 20% of the whole population of the world.
Okay.
We are completely and utterly ignored. People write books and they think about colorblind people. There's a lot of times you have to think about that. And there's far less colorblind people in the world than dyslexics.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. And obviously, if dyslexics can't read your work, then they're not going to play your game. So it should be at the forefront of anybody creating anything that you use fonts, colors, layouts that are easy for people to read.
Wow, that's actually very interesting statistics, and it makes a whole lot of sense. And even I, as the dyslexic, never really thought, how would another dyslexic person read this? Interesting.
Someone's go on.
Although, it's not everybody might agree with that, but I do find it very interesting, and I do find the statistics behind, because do creators keep in mind like color blindness and stuff, but not how does it do for a dyslexic person? Art book or play it.
I'm not going to go to red, but definitely I'd love to get the art book or play it. I don't. I've lost the conversation. I don't know what. Was she not?
I'm not able to follow up to, but as we are getting close to wrapping up the show, you already mentioned, your shoutouts and your goals. Any other? What sort of content do you see like creating going forwards, and where can people find you?
Yeah, so I've joined up with a dyslexic program in Coventry. So there's links to those on my YouTube channel, and she is incredible and does dyslexic tests. One thing I want to work on, and I'm trying to sort of work with trying to get some artists in, is I would really like to have dyslexic character sheets for games, because obviously a lot of character sheets aren't necessarily dyslexic friendly. There's a really good one for 5th edition that I did a video on very early on, and no one else covers them. I was like, that's a really great idea, but I'm not artistic at all, so I don't know how to start or how to create. But I think there's a huge market to take all these other games and then just turn them into dyslexic friendly. So as for finding me, I'm everywhere now, I'm on Twitch, but we were talking about this off camera. I haven't got the brain capacity at this moment in time to do Twitch, but I'm on X, I'm on Blue Sky. I think both of those have been a learning experience, I'll tell you. I try to avoid what goes on in it. I'm just there to advertise what I do. I've got my own Discord, which I love people talking on my Discord. It's amazing. You've got yours, which I've just joined now, so thank you for that. Discord's such a great place. I've got my own Facebook as well. I'm trying to do as much as I can that this 50-year-old man can do, because I'm not I'm amazed that I can even use OBS, in all honesty. My technical skills are appalling.
Well, if you can use OBS, I think you're ready for Twitch. And you didn't mention TikTok, which I also found you there.
Oh, yes, I'm on TikTok
very good
as well. Yeah,
very good sorts. And so yeah, you're everywhere. I will make sure, if I'm not following your Blue Sky or something, if I've missed something, to make sure to follow you.
I'll send you a thing, and then you can add
the Linktree or something. Yeah, that's cool. All right.
Oh, Linktree. So... My son mentioned Linktree, and I went, yes, I must do that. And then I ignored it.
It's easy. It makes sense. Thank you so much for joining us, Adrian, and talking about our hobbies and our journeys. And thank you so much for the chat, for interacting with us. And if you're watching it on and later on YouTube, do give a subscribe and a like, and make sure you follow and subscribe to Adrian's channel, Dungeons and Dyslexia. The link has popped off in this chat quite a lot, so I guess you found it there. Thank you so much once again, Adrian.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having me on. It was absolutely amazing. And I'm done now. My Virgin interview is out of the way now, so thank you.
We turned the microphone around to you for once. And we could definitely go for 1.5 hours, 2 hours, I think. But I try to keep them easier to edit later. So
but what I'll do, we'll reverse the roles, and then I'll get you back on mine. I'll get you over on mine.
That would be great. That would be great. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. And as always, stay legit and stay meta.